Bonjour Tobias, how are you doing today?
Very good. It's a great day at Money2020.
So it's a pleasure to finally manage to locate you. I know you're very busy, everybody is after you. It's day 2 of Money20 in Asia. So how did the event go so far for you?
I mean, it's fantastic. I think for us it's all about the partnership with the fintechs. I think we had a great breakfast session today with StartPath, listening to a lot of the fintech ideas that are out there. But for us it's really about how do we scale, how do we make those connections happen. So I think a lot of conversations coming out of that, and so that is always what kind of makes me the most excited when I see people talking to each other about what are we going to do next, how are we going to deploy this solution. So that's a measure of success for us here.
And we touched something very important just before we started here. You talked about being very focused in delivering things, really making things happen, and not just talking about innovation, new concepts that you can't realistically implement. Can you talk us through that approach, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we look at innovation, we really look at it from 3 lenses. Like the first lens is like, what problem are you solving? And is that problem a real big problem, or if it's just a vitamin, right? Something that's nice to have, but it's not really moving the world forward. The other piece that we look at is technology feasibility. So that's also where I have to balance as a corporate innovator between like really deep tech, futuristic technology, and things that you can actually absorb into today's systems. So it's always that fine line between like being very futuristic, deep tech, at the same time being very close to today's systems so you don't create friction by trying something new. And then commercial, that's also really important to us, obviously. How do we create a win-win-win-win solution, right? Win for consumers, win for merchants, win for banks, win for fintech providers. And in the end of the day, that's how we can create measurable ROI. Because a lot of people talk about pilots, but when the big questions that I get from our partners and our banking customers is to say, I'm not interested in the pilot economics, I'm interested in the long-term economics. And so how do we define those? So that's really, I think, the 3 lenses that we take to really measure if something is real and we can make it real.
And it seems like a sound approach. Again, over the years, I've been working in innovation a long time ago. The term innovation in banks and financial services is a bit fluffy at times, but it's good to hear that you're very focused on driving real, tangible results. If we step back a bit, so you're innovation head director, Innovation Labs for Mastercard.
Yeah.
Asia
Pacific.
Yeah. Asia Pacific, yeah. But you also worked lived in the US for a long time before, yeah. So, how do you work with merchants? Because Mastercard is an interesting organization on many levels. So, how do you see that collaboration happening as Mastercard, the merchants, as you said, or the B2B kind of, and the end customer from an innovation standpoint?
Well, I think there's a lot of things happening here in Asia Pacific in general, and I think we see most of the fintech disruption actually really scaling in some of the markets across this market. When you look at China, India, etc., many such examples where fintech and digital companies are really taking a lead in a lot of the disruption. Now, what has that taught us? I think what it's taught us is actually about value creation. So you cannot be just focused on what you want, but what other services can you provide? And I think that goes back to the earlier point on fintech collaboration and partnership. Mastercard will always be really good at creating networks, really good at creating interoperability, access to payments, access to identities, etc. But there's many things that we don't do well in terms of, let's say, creating a natural language chatbot or thinking about a new way of doing data analytics using AI. Those are the partnership opportunities where we then bring together the ecosystem to say, how do we not just go with one particular solution for a merchant, in our case, let's say acceptance, but how do we create more value for merchants beyond acceptance? Access to working capital, access to customer analytics, loyalty solutions, and bringing all these toolkits together, that's really what I think will ultimately benefit us, but actually benefit everyone. And that goes back to the win-win scenarios that we pursue.
2 things on that point, actually. One is, in terms of implementing those ideas, delivering them, whether it's a partnership or something you experiment internally. Typically, how long does that take, and how challenging it is, again, to deal with the organizational structure of a Mastercard?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think we're now entering a next generation of API economy. I think we first started as an ecosystem in financial systems, merchant systems, to be more open. And so that was the first generation of APIs, softening our core services, delivering them via developer platforms, etc. Now the next generation, I think, is really about how do we orchestrate experiences. How do we actually look at each other's solutions and create that breakthrough and make it efficient, essentially, and make it developer-friendly. Because ultimately, business case, business model, that's one thing. And that's back to finding the big problems to solve for. But then from a technology standpoint, how do you become very easily absorbed from an API? But then even more important, how do you orchestrate that API alongside many other APIs that a solution may require and an experience may require? And so that's been a big focus for us from a technology standpoint. How do we not just provide more APIs, because quite frankly, more APIs means more IT projects, more IT time, but how do we coordinate and orchestrate these APIs with technology that is now available across the world?
Again, I love that theme, that topic, and there's so many more questions I'd like to ask, but we are a bit pressed in terms of time. And maybe one of the last question is around Money2020. Obviously, you've got a big booth there, a big presence. One of your key challenges, I would have thought, would be to be aware of the right startups to work with, to use Money20 as a platform to again identify the right startups, and how are you doing that with your team to make sure you identify the right potential partners throughout the Asia region?
That's right, and I think we try to attract startups mainly through word of mouth and really being seen as a scale-up capability for these startups. So instead of actually really trying to attract, advertise a lot, it's actually us looking at ourselves to say, like, what kind of value do I bring to a startup? And what conditions do I offer this startup? So we actually are very focused on making sure that when a startup joins our program, we don't require them to give us equity. We don't force them in exclusivity. We allow them to work with anybody they want. We don't ask them to relocate their business to us or nearby or co-create or co-locate. So we really look at actually saying, like, you are already successful at what you're doing. You have shown success by raising money, by offering a product to customers already. So our role actually is not so much in helping you become a better entrepreneur and create a better product, but our role really is to connect you. Because with our thousands of banks in 210 countries, with billions of customers and consumers using our product, that's really our opportunity to help you scale as a fintech. So that's our message to the fintechs. And we continue to develop pilots, we continue to develop commercial relationships, and we do a lot of matchmaking to our partners to make that vision real.
Awesome. So thank you very much for sharing that again. The last thing I'm going to say, thank you, and I love the orchestrating experiences. That's where innovation has a role to play. So thank you so much, Tobias. Merci beaucoup pour ton temps et bon courage pour la suite. À bientôt.
Yeah, à bientôt.
Merci.